Q World Order. Huh? It did not. Okay, maybe it's in one of my accounts, so I need to go check there. Look at it. So when I did the show with him and Nish last time, we were talking about queuing theory. Remember?
I love it.
Yeah.
Hi, Emily. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I love your I love your thumbnail.
Well, this is where we're at.
It's where we're at. All right. You can just explain it all to me on the thing, and then when we're done recording, I have a question I want to ask you off the air. But let's just get going on this. And all right. Do you want to record it? Do you want me to record and send it to you like I do?
I'm going to try something I've never tried before. I'm going to try and screen record this.
Okay.
Which should work, right? This is a new iPad. It should work fine. Let's see.
Yeah. Are you gonna screen record it in like some program you have on your iPad, or do you want to screen record Zoom?
If you can screen record your side as well, that'd be great.
I'm gonna make you co-host. That way you have recording permissions, so do I, right? And you can also try whatever other technique, but they'll have it in all departments. So
okay,
all
cool.
right.
Because there's an interesting thread I want to show you, which would be good. Would be good if the audience could see it as well. All
right. Cool.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. We should all be ready to record. So let's just you can explain it all to me in the recording. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Recording in progress.
Hey everybody, this is Emily Moyer. I'm here with my friend Les Luthor, who said, Emily, do you have an hour for me this week? And I said, for you, Les, anything. Why am I here, Les? What's going on?
I just thought it was really interesting since the last time I spoke to you and Nish on Just the Three of Us, where I was talking about the very, very boring topic of queuing. And, you know, how it is involved with every PsyOp going. From the Great Depression to the USSR to the scamdemic to Ukraine. And then, lo and behold, the Queen dies and 250,000 NPCs go down to London and start queuing just to go look at an empty box of the Queen. And yet again, it's one of these things like, oh my God, here we are. This is exactly what we're talking about. I just wanted to, and you're the only person that kind of listens to this horseshit I'm saying, because nobody else really is getting it or cares. Probably because it's the most boring conspiracy theory of all. But it's quite important, right, Emily? Like, you kind of get where I'm going with the whole Q thing.
Yeah.
The first one, of course, being, or the most obvious one being, the Trump trust the plan Q movement, which was literally getting people to stand in a queue.
Right.
Metaphorically speaking, right? And like you pointed out, most people are not picking up because in America they don't really use that term. But anyway, hashtag the Q was trending with the Queen's funeral.
Oh my God.
Right? Now here's where it gets even really creepier, because I think the simulation is trolling me, because there is a thread on Twitter that's pretty much identical to my Ukraine thread, where someone is, you know, travel vlogging, live tweeting themselves going through a queue. What? And it's yeah, and the numbers, the amount of likes and shares it got is ridiculous. So I'd like to share that with you at some point. We'll have a look at that. But also, like, have you been looking at the whole Queen thing, Emily? Have you been ignoring it? Like, how did you feel on Monday? Like, what was your energy levels like when they buried the bitch?
My energy level. I had a really rough day on Monday.
So did I.
I've been having a lot of really rough days, though, because I've been doing basically hard physical labor. And so those days, I'm basically in a refrigerator for 12 hours. And so I'm not paying attention to any of that kind of stuff, which is probably good. I would say, Les, there's something funny going on right now. Two things. And I think what you're talking about is a representation of this, right? The reality is incredibly malleable right now. And either the simulation is trolling us, or we have moved into a place where we are directly controlling the simulation with our words, in which case we better be selective. Because the number of strange things that I have had happen in the last 2 weeks, they're not just like the cool little, they're not just coinkydinks, and they're not the kind of like cool, esoteric, metaphysical synchronicities that like we all enjoy, but we question, is it just like, did Google hear me say that? So it's feeding me this in some other way. These are large scale, like really, really large scale, cross domain, cross platform, maybe even cross reality responses and sync ups that bring us back to where the conversation between you and I first started with, did you create COVID?
Can I just jump in there? The last Project Kids I listened to on YouTube, the second it ended, a Netflix trailer came up and the first words were, "You mean to tell me the whole pandemic was to keep you out of prison?" I don't know if I told you, but the scamdemic pretty much kept me out of a 6-month sentence in prison.
I think that did come up in the.
We touched on it, yeah, and I was just thinking, this is just getting ridiculous now, like getting ridiculous. But can you give me an example? Are you allowed to say any examples of what you're talking about? Even though.
Sure. Yeah, no, sure, absolutely. I will say them because I did go through them with Michael on an episode of the Glass Bead Game yesterday, but that's a private series that not that many people get, so more people will probably hear what we're doing right now, so I'll be happy to go through them. The first one was about 2 weeks ago during the U.S. Open, right? We had a friend over for dinner, right? And we were sitting in front of the television watching the U.S. Open. And at some point towards the end of the dinner, another friend called or was texting and was trying to convince the friend that was here with us that he needed a haircut, right? And this friend was not buying it. He didn't want a haircut, right? Mm-hmm. And an argument sort of ensued, like a very interesting kind of like sword fight, pissing contest kind of argument. But, you don't like me. I'm sure you wouldn't like to be told you need a shave or you need a haircut by some other guy. It's one thing if like your dad says it or your girlfriend, but anyone else, no, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this goes on for a few minutes and then Laura leaves to take this friend home. And the moment she leaves at the U.S. Open, they stop play and pan to the audience where someone is being ejected for giving someone a haircut.
Wow.
And then you can see the video on YouTube of someone giving a haircut in the stands, right? The very next night, Laura and I watching the U.S. Open again, right? Because when there's a Grand Slam on, I'm watching tennis every day, right? Watching the U.S. Open again, but this time we're not upstairs eating dinner. We're downstairs in the courtyard of our apartment building because there's a grill down there. So I was cooking steak on the grill, right? And this one of the people in the building who lives down there on the courtyard who we know, he comes in with his little dog, who is one of our favorite little dogs in the building, a little dachshund, right? Her name is Zelda, and she always comes running over and licks my fingers because she knows I'm cooking steak, and she was kind of playing around and dancing around for us, and then she hopped up on Laura's lap, and Laura is sitting there with the little dachshund on her lap. At that very moment, U.S. Open camera pans over to Martina Navratilova, who's sitting in the audience with her dachshund on her lap.
Wow.
Okay, next one. Michael and I ended last week's Project Kids, the patron segment, talking about this Scott's green turf, right? This sort of hybrid GMO grass that could be used for the green screening of nature, right? Mm-hmm. And when he was looking up this company, right, he was finding some other stuff about this Lunarly, but we were talking about this Scott's turf GMO grass that we think is used to green screen reality, and he was reading a part about how that they had planted this grass somewhere and all the birds had died. So then we got into the birds aren't real, right? Like the green screening of nature caused the birds to die, which made the need for not real birds, right? Okay. Gary Warmerdam, I don't know if you know who he is. He's been on this show before, and he's around in the sort of community. He posts in his community tab that Tom Green has just done a video about flat Earth and unreal birds. Tom Green.
Wow.
Okay. That was, and then there was one more. What was the last one? And I had another one today. I have that list on my phone. Let me get to another one. Just because it's getting to the point that it's kind of crazy how many there are. Let me just find it on my phone to sort of just demonstrate your point with this here. All right. It's going to be a little ways up on this, but let me just get that out there. All right. Let's see. There it is. Let's see. Where is it? I already passed it. I just want to say the last one because it's to the point. Okay, I think I already passed it on there. How many?
Just while you're looking for that, I had a similar situation where I was talking to my auntie about something, and she was talking about pit bulls, and then I look over at the TV, and there's a UFC, fight on the TV, and the guy's got pit bull tattooed on the back of his back.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Yes. That's exactly that. Right. Okay, I found the last one. Okay, so a friend from Los Angeles, I was having a Zoom chat with her, right? And we're talking about just what's going on in each other's lives. And she asks me, do you know Olivia? And I said, well, I know who she is. I don't personally know her. And she starts telling me some things about Olivia. And one of the things about Olivia is Olivia likes to go down and hang out in the Los Angeles riverbed with the homeless people, right? So I start having a conversation about why I think that might be, right? And one of the things I tell her is that I have this suspicion that there's a group of people, homeless people being amongst them, that are using rhodium as a drug, right? As a drug, there's something about it that facilitates dimensional travel or something, and they tend to cluster around rivers and lakes in downtown urban areas.
What's rhodium?
Rhodium is a metal. It costs about $200 a gram, and it's used in catalytic converters and hybrid vehicles. Right.
Yeah.
So I tell her about this rhodium, and she says, well, what's rhodium? And so then I tell her, just like you, I tell her what it is. She's like, oh my God, that's so weird. The last text I got from Olivia, she told me that she needed to find a catalytic converter because hers had been stolen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So and then just to that point also, my cat's name is Olivia, and Olivia on Fringe was a time traveler and a dimensional traveler. And she wasn't necessarily using rhodium, but they explored elements like that during the course of the show, right?
Yeah.
Okay, another one happened today. Yesterday, I was out walking for a couple hours, and I called Jeff my friend Jeff Gates while I was walking, and I was telling him how does he ever have blue sky days anymore? Days where the sky is just blue, no clouds, no chemtrails, nothing. Because I can't remember when the last time I had one was, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, so we had this conversation, and I took some pictures, and I said, every day I have this ridiculous sky that looks like these perfect little clouds, like we're in the Super Mario Brothers video game, except for the clouds are all a little bit flat on the bottom. Or if they're not those kinds of clouds, then it's a sky full of chemtrails. But I cannot remember the last time the sky was just blue. It's been at least a year, maybe two, right?
Yep.
This morning was a blue sky day. So this is happening on a level that is okay, we can say the simulation is trolling us, right? Or that's one version of it. And I think there is some merit to that. And I think some of that is in good humor, and some of it can be sinister and everything in between. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the things that is more likely, I think that whatever the fuck it is we're in, whether we're in a real world or a fake world or a hybrid world or a simulation or whatever the fuck it is, it goes through cycles where it's augmentable and others where it's more locked in, right? And I think we're in one of those stretchy phases. There was also one of those phases at the very beginning of the pandemic. Michael and I were noticing a lot of this stuff then, and then it sort of fizzled out or died out or changed. And now it's active again, but we have 2 years of the things we've been studying more under our belt, right? Mm-hmm. I think we're going through a stage or a phase like that right now. And I don't know if it's that way for everybody, or if it's that way for people who've learned certain kinds of things about how the reality works, things that we've all spent the last couple of years focusing on. I don't know how much of it has to do with language. I don't know how much of it has to do with genetics. I don't know how much of it has to do with vibration. I think there's I don't know if it's constant, like this is happening everywhere, or if it's only certain locations. If it's certain locations with certain kinds of particle accelerators or certain kinds of buildings that are maybe something more than buildings, because I'm starting to look into that quite deeply as well. I don't know if it's people with certain genetic. I don't know what it is, but we're in a phase right now where that, it's kind of like if you've ever made bread. But right, once you have the dough mixed together, you have to knead it at a certain point. If you wait too long or do it too soon or whatever, and then you have to let it rise, you have to do everything in particular timing. Like it's more flexible at a certain time, and then if you don't get it during that time, it's harder or impossible to get it to do what you want it to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think something like that, and I think it's figuring out really many more of the exacts of how it works. Like we're just haphazardly doing it, right? We're saying things, not everything we say happens immediately, but enough things do in this weird way that our attention is drawn to it. What is the technique? What is the protocol? What do the words have to be about? Does it have to involve a natural element, a color, a number, a person? Like what is the combination of things that makes it so that you're speaking your sentence into existence, actually?
Exactly, the big question.
Yeah.
Do you ever remember that? I think it might have been the Disney film where it was set in World War II, and the bomber had been shot up so much that the wheels wouldn't come out. So basically, the gunners at the bottom would have got crushed when they crash landed it. And the guy in the bottom was so he knew he was going to die that for some reason he quickly drew a picture of the bomber with cartoon wheels coming out of the bottom. And then just as they're landing, cartoon wheels magically appear out of this bomber. And they all quickly jump out, and then this guy's in the trance, and when he snaps out of the trance, the cartoon wheels just disappear and the bomber goes crashing down. Do you remember that? Do you remember that film? Anyway, you get my point.
I don't know that film, but I can understand what you're talking about. Like I understand that possible method, and that gets into some of my theories and thoughts about like graffiti and murals and things like that as well.
Yeah. So where can I ask about Monday?
Yeah.
What was the simulation like for you on your Monday? Was it regular? Was it off? Over here, it was like Christmas Day. Like everything was closed. There was no avatars walking around.
It's weird. I thought people were mean and crabby. Okay, so Laura is jumping in here. She's in the background, and she.
Hi, Laura. By the way, we've never said hi. Hi, Laura. Hi.
So I'm taking notes in the background. So she did. I remember these texts. Multiple times text me complaining about how crabby the NPCs and the people in the simulation were. Everybody was being mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't often send me those texts. I can't say you've never sent me a text like that before, but it's not often. So consistently happening. I was in the refrigerator most of the day, and things kept going wrong in terms of like the deliveries that were supposed to arrive weren't, or they were late. And I had this one weird thing happen, right? And this may be a good clue. So thanks for asking this again. Like I was waiting for a water delivery, right?
Yeah.
And water deliveries on the days we're getting them determine how early I get to the shop, because I get a text first thing in the morning telling me the window on when the water will be delivered. So I have to be there in time to be there for that window. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my thing early in the morning, and the window was from 9:02 a.m. to 1:02 p.m. So I get up there before then. And when it's getting close to 1 o'clock, I get a text from the company saying, sorry, they won't be able to make the delivery. They'll be coming on Wednesday instead, right? So that doesn't really work. I needed to load the kegs that day. So I call my boss, and he starts ordering me massive deliveries of water from Instacart, which is through Whole Foods, and from Costco, right?
Yeah.
And because those are not designed to do bulk orders. Like we had to have several deliveries. So I lose a ton of time doing my actual job because I'm waiting for outside for these deliveries. Because if I'm in the refrigerator, they won't see me. They'll just leave. So we get all this stuff. I have to put that away, right? Go back in the refrigerator, back to work. Suddenly there's a knock on the refrigerator door. The delivery driver is there with water.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they had just texted me saying it wasn't going to be there. So now I have all the water, right? And I don't have, so I took the water delivery anyway, right? I took the water delivery anyway, just to be certain. And I, I'm like, what's happening with this, right? And he didn't know what was going on. So it's almost like we switched realities. And in one reality, the water wasn't coming. And then we were in a different reality where the water was still coming. Now, water is an element, right? So I do notice that with all of these things happening, there's generally some kind of element involved, like a natural element, right? Mm-hmm. And water obviously being a big one, and the one that sort of most highly impacts me. I've had a lot of, I have tons of water in my chart, right? And I just had kind of a chaotic personal situation last month that revolved around water. And this thing did as well. So it's entirely possible that there was some shift in the reality that day that I was, that for me is demarcated by the water delivery.
Yep. Or I'll throw this at you. There was a system reboot that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because of the system reboot, it glitched and it came twice, or it didn't come, or whatever. Yeah, man. That Monday. See, I don't get headaches very often, and I had a splitting headache that Monday. And the last time I had a headache like that was the day they apparently turned CERN on.
Okay.
So I'm getting really good now at starting to realize the very rare times I get headaches is when there's a world stage nonsense going on.
Yeah.
Whether it's for the conspiracy theories or for the normies,
right?
That distraction is when they're rebooting the system or something along those lines, Because it was like I said, it was like there was not a soul. Everything was shut. Even the petrol stations run by Hindu people that don't celebrate anything on our calendar were shut. Everything was shut. And not that many people like the Queen here in the UK,
Right.
So what the fuck was going on? But then weirdly, at 8 o'clock, when I went back out again, everything was open. The system had rebooted and was fired back up. Pubs were open, cars everywhere. Just very much similar to that town I was telling you about in Poland. The liminal space before you go into the war zone, Westworld zone theme park.
Yep. Okay. So a couple of things that I want to just draw attention to that happened coincidentally alongside with interacting, sort of part of the whole thing with the Queen, right? So Serena Williams announced her retirement and played a few weeks before the U.S. Open, right? But she played her final match. Can you check and see what day Serena Williams played her final match? It was the first Friday sometimes they call it the second Friday, but the first Friday, depending on if you're counting qualifiers or not. She announced her retirement, and then just this past week, Roger Federer announced his retirement. Now, there was a very weird scene a couple of years back at Wimbledon where she curtsied for the Queen. Serena Williams curtsied in front of Elizabeth. That looked like really strange, right?
It was on 9/2.
Okay, so September 2nd was the day Serena played her final match. What day did the Queen die?
I think it wasn't on the 8th.
The 8th, I believe.
The 8th. And then what day?
That was a Friday. So Serena lost on Friday. I believe the Queen died on the 8th.
Okay. And then what day did
Thursday?
What day did Roger Federer announce his retirement? He'll be playing his last match on the 23rd, right? But these are the two. Even though Andy Murray is British, I, in a lot of ways, have Roger Federer more associated with the royal family in my tennis diagram of reality than I do Andy Murray, because I see Andy Murray as a the purpose of Andy Murray is if Scottish ever gains independence, then he will become part.
9:15. So we
9:15. So okay, so Roger. So you have bookends almost. You have 9-2 Serena, 9-8 the Queen, and then 9:15. Is that what you said? 9:15 Roger Federer, right? And you know, Roger Federer, if you go back and listen to a lot of things I've said over time, I've associated him with three things: with Bill Gates, with time, right, being sponsored by Rolex and being from Switzerland, and also sort of representing on some levels royalty, right?
Yeah.
I see Andy Murray as the backup plan in case Scotland gains independence. I think Andy Murray is the illegitimate child of Prince Charles, and I think Prince Charles and his mom had some kind of affair or something like that, right? So
can I just jump in there, right? So would you consider Serena and
Roger, King and Queen of Tennis? Yes.
King, Queen. And did you know? You probably know this. Andy Murray was at the Dunblane school shooting.
Yes, I've done shows on that as well.
Okay.
It came up also in the one and only show I ever did with Tracy Twyman.
Ah, okay.
Right, but I would consider, like, if I were to make a diagram, I'd say Serena of modern tennis, Serena and Roger are like the king and queen of tennis. Rafael Nadal would be like the finest gladiator, right? The finest warrior on behalf of system, right? Associated, or could be opposing, like, you know, representing more royalty of Spain or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Andy Murray is like, you know, a trusted knight, and he is knighted, right? A trusted knight that is there waiting in the wings to take over if necessary. You know, and Novak Djokovic being like the joker or the jester or the spoiler, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's how I see that. So the fact that all of this royalty went down in the same period of time, all of it during Mercury retrograde, by the way, mm-hmm. And I did have an exchange the other day with Robert where he was talking about how Roger Federer retiring during Mercury retrograde in sort of association with his astrology could mean that, like, this may not be the last. He may come back. Serena Williams. So then yesterday there was an article talking about how Serena Williams is already considering a comeback. So, like, is the Queen going to fucking come back? Right? Is this part of, like, when we're talking about system reboot, the water's not coming and then it's coming. The players retiring and then they're right. So, and then, you know, so I think that it's going to be interesting to see sort of what plays out regarding this. And all of these people I've associated with duality in terms of the possibility of time travel, in terms of gender, right? In terms of you know, the Queen less so than Serena or Roger and whatnot. But that there's, you know, they're playing sort of split roles. They exist on many realms, right? There's a version of them that the public believes, and then the version that people who look into the weird stuff also understand to be true. So that's all been going on around this period of time as well.
Yep. So interesting, man. Can I go on?
What? Yeah, go ahead.
Can I show you this? This thread. Can you access Twitter just off a regular?
If you put because I'm not logged into Twitter. I forget all my passwords and stuff. But if you put the link in the chat, and then I will click and open it, and if it goes straight to that direct tweet, I will be able to open it.
If you can you just go to your whatever search engine and just put at Now Then Sunshine in one word.
Now Then Sunshine.
Yeah.
That's what comes up. All right.
And obviously, let me have a look.
Okay. There's is it the link? Let me show you what we got, and you tell me which one to click on. Twitter. Jules Birkby.
Yeah. Look at this, man. And if you go to her, go to that pinned tweet there. Yeah, look. She's basically done. This blew me up. My jaw hit the floor when I saw this. People might find this really boring and stupid, but for me, it's one of them personal kind of
Look what's here on the side. Roger Federer says he is definitely retiring from tennis. Right on the side there.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, continuing. And of course, the Ukraine thing from Vladimir Putin up top. Okay.
I'm just looking at all the peripherals, you know.
Yep. Is there anyway, a video? Or
no. So if you just click on that pinned tweet.
Okay.
So for people that don't, most people probably know this, but I went to Ukraine and I'd done a very divisive thread that was like a travel vlog as I was live tweeting myself into the Battle of Kiev, right? And, you know, some people were saying it's the greatest thread of all time. Some people are saying it's the stupidest shit they've ever seen in their life. She's done the same thing with her standing in a queue. So if we just go back to the top.
Okay.
Look at the number of the train. So I'm the one. The one that predicted that on the magical date of 2222222, it would be War of Russia, and coincidentally, her train is 2222. And anyway, as you go down, you can just see that hashtag the queue. Everything she's saying, the queue, my feet are hurting, the queue, and as you can see, she's clearly like the polar opposite of me, right? A woman, middle class. Probably vaxxed up to her eyeballs, I'm going to guess. Not to judge, you know.
Right.
And as we go on and on and on.
Oh my God! Look at this. Currently lying in state. The Q tracker.
The Q. I mean, but did you see how many likes and retweets it got?
Yeah.
She got called up to go on to like LBC, which is like a London news network.
Yeah.
You know how nobody wanted to talk to me about, you know, being in the war zone? She went to a queue and got called up onto a major news station to talk about her experience.
Yeah.
These goddamn NPCs, unbelievable. The crazy thing is that she doesn't know why she's there.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, just, you know, the little antenna in the back of her head made her go there.
Look at what this looks like, where they are, this South Warwick Park.
Yeah.
Look at the way the lights are hitting some of the tree branches. It almost makes it look like what do they call it? The upside down from Stranger Things.
So,
right?
Yeah. So, as we said before, Disney are the masters when it comes to queuing and keeping people entertained and giving them a fully immersive 4D experience and having a fun time. And here we go. And do you remember we were talking about snaking? Like you snake a queue to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the queue entails walking up and down several thousand snaking barriers. There's literally no need for us to walk up and down every single one, but walk it we must because queuing, like she's like a totem to the thing you described.
Right. Do you this... But
oh my God.
Yeah, it goes on and on, Emily. I mean...
Okay, you see this pattern? It's on the ground right here?
Yeah.
I'm circling it. Okay, I recorded a show a few weeks ago. It'll be out next week with Nish's friend, JJ Raindeblanc, right? And this pattern comes up in the show where we're talking about correlating certain things. And that conversation I had with JJ Raindeblanc has led me down a path that I think is maybe going to get us closer to where we've been trying to go than we've been, because I'm starting to see the many purposes that the things all around us play. Like we look at something and we think, oh, this is a bridge, this is a building, this is a lake, this is a blah, 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 right? But I'm starting to notice markings and patterns on things that look like other things. And I think some of our technologies are doing double, triple, and sometimes even quadruple duty. They're masquerading as one thing while really being another. Okay? This pattern right here explains a lot of it. And I don't want to say too much more because I'm building a mystery here, right? But definitely, I just happened to notice that it was right, that they had to walk over this pattern while queuing for the queen. It makes perfect sense.
Well, Emily, as well, that looks very similar to like a Blackadder, a snake pattern as they're standing in the snake queue. They're standing on the back of a snake, snaking.
And they're wearing wristbands. This is just a queue to get wristbands. This isn't even the line to go see the queen or whatever. This is just the line to get the wristbands. This is
the queue for the queue.
Right.
Do you see how stupid this is? Do you know, I just can't, I can't get over it. This is why I had that moment where I was, oh my God, I got to tell Emily about this. And here we are. I mean, it's just so ridiculous.
Okay, and she's talking about how crazy the snaking business is, and look at all the people. I mean, yeah. Okay, but notice, you have the two pillars lit purple over the bridge, and what I just said about a bridge seems to be a bridge, a building seems to be a building, right? What I'm looking at, this scene right here, is showing kind of exactly what I'm working on, right? So this is a little screenshot. I mean, there's not a single thing in this shot that when you look at it, you're like, oh, this isn't that. Well, if you think about every other thing it looks like that it could also be, and then start playing with the many realities that could be built on that. But this is a perfect example of that.
And of course, shout out to my friend Human Vibration. Purple is the color of illusion. And
that's exactly what we're dealing with. Yes.
Yeah, the whole Queen's Jubilee and her death was, swamped in purple. Also, I've just noted that Trump's appeared there in the and I'll get to Trump in a minute because the most famous Q movement of all involves Trump.
Okay, and she's starting to give people a brief bit of Q, right? Like a brief bit of Q. I thought she was going to get into the history. Never mind. She's just showing people that they're not.
But wow. She's got Q. In every post, she's managed to fit in Q the same way I tried to get the word illusion into my illusion warfare report.
Yep, and she never says waiting in line, right? So even if Americans look at this, they're not going to get the point unless they've seen our podcast, right? Because she never says waiting in line, right? They're not even going to think that. They're not even going to cross-reference those ideas. And of course, she's wearing her Fitbit that's counting her steps while she does this, and she got a wristband to go see the Queen. So she's got at least 2 RFID chips on her, right? Yeah. And probably a few inside of her.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Shakespeare, he's famous for obviously saying the world is a stage and everyone's merely actors.
Mm-hmm. Look at this. Using this pause in the queue to ponder my life in all-nighters. So this is she's staying up all night to see the Queen. She's like 20 to 30, partying euphorically, 33 to 36, crying, rocking babies. So she's left her child at home to go out and do this. 42 years old, slowly shuffling in a slow-moving queue until the sun rises. She is fucking funny. She has a good sense of humor. Look at this.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think she's a legitimate, regular human being? Or do you think there's a bit of... I don't know. I don't want to say... I don't know. Do you think this is just a genuine... I don't know. Let's carry on. Let's go.
I think there's a different version of her for every version of reality. So in one, she is literally just an NPC cyborg bot going around carrying out commands. In another, she's just like you and I, and she's trolling the fuck out of people. And then there's like every possible sort of cyborg version where she has some degree of awareness, no degree of awareness, 1 degree of awareness, almost there, half awake, right? All that kind of stuff. Do you see, I'm just going to point this out as like a little tidbit right here. Look at how all the cranes that are there for the smart city that's being built during the day, right? They're left at night with those lights on. Like no one is ever thinking, what are those lights for? What is that? That looks like the tip a tip of a thermometer, like a mercury thermometer, like, right? It looks like, some sort of antenna to something else. Like, we have got to start asking, why do they leave it in those positions? We look at this, Laura and I do every day here. There's so many cranes here in Austin. They're left sometimes in the strangest positions, hanging. I'm like, their technology, they are doing something while they are in that position. What are they doing? What are they measuring? What are they monitoring? What are they scanning? What are they taking the temperature of, right? And in this case, it's red. It's Mercury, right? Like, and we're in Mercury retrograde right now.
Yeah.
And look at that red stain in the water there, right? It's just, none of this, like, even the patterns, what is this? Some kind of, is that a bridge or is that a tramway going across the water?
I believe that's the Millennium Bridge, the one that slightly moves as you're walking across it.
Okay, so these things, like, okay, it's a bridge and it moves a little bit. So it's like a walk-a-lator, like you get in the airport, like an escalator that's flat, that type of thing. Okay, but look at what it also looks like. It looks like strips of film, right? It looks like, if you've ever looked at a genetic marker test, and I'm not going to say too much more about that right now because that's a huge thing I'm going down. If you look at these interesting V shapes, like, I'm curious as to what other technologies have that. We are walking around in like a giant technology box where everything, like, we think we live in an apartment building, but the apartment building is really some sort of like, barometer pressure reader for the environment around us. It does multiple things. And the thing that it's doing at the time that it's doing it plays a part in the reality we're experiencing. And that's all I'm going to say for now about this, because I'm down a huge rabbit hole on things, right? But we got to start questioning our surroundings to an even higher degree than we have been.
What do you think of them clouds?
Well, so those clouds, did it rain that night at all?
Not that I know of.
Okay, those clouds have a pattern in them that I have associated with whenever you're going to have a rainstorm that is brought on by weather modification. Yeah. So the fact that it didn't rain is fascinating to me. Whenever you have that pattern that makes it look like, sort of quilted like that, right? Mm-hmm. That usually indicates clouds, where they seed the clouds with silver iodide to make it rain.
Yeah.
Right. That's usually what it indicates. So that it didn't rain that night is fascinating.
Maybe it did. I don't know. I've already obviously pre-looked through her thing. I didn't see any moments of rain. But I just think she's obviously got a good camera there, a good like night camera there.
Yeah, look at this one that says outside the Tate Modern, right? And who's the person who's been canceled the most publicly over the last month? Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Right? So there's all kinds of things working its way into this thread. And of course, then there's her and her sweet mom, right? The typical British looking, little mother and daughter, right?
Mm-hmm. So if you go, I'm getting to the bottom of this. Okay. If you go back up to that last one with her and her mum.
Yeah.
Sorry, the next one.
Up or down?
It says show more just under this one. No, back. Get to the last one of her one. It carries on. You just got to click on show more replies.
Oh, show. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Or sorry. The next show replies, the higher one up. See what I'm talking about?
Okay. Underneath.
So for some reason, Twitter, once you get to a certain amount of tweets, it will move you on to a next thing. So you've got to go to the bottom of this thread, and it will say like, it won't be that. It'll be slightly up, slightly up. Show replies. See it? Blue. Show replies. She would have added to her own one.
Gotcha.
So it carries on now. Yeah.
Yeah. She's talking about, she is kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a genuine kind of like feel good tweet. I'm not going to be. I was considering doing this myself, and then I thought to myself, I can't stand in the queue for a day. It's just not exciting. It's not exciting enough for me. Like I can't do it. But She's done another potential illusion warfare report I was going to do.
Yeah. I mean, this is what would be interesting is to find a queue and go interview people. You can talk to them about queuing, but also find out how many of them have heard of queue.
Yeah.
Right. What they think about that, and just kind of seeing the responses you get where you compare those two things, because it'd be interesting from the normie perspective, or if you get some weird conspiracy, wow, look at the sky there. So the sky, this is at sunrise, I'm assuming, but it is showing a violet crown. Mm-hmm. This is showing the kind of coloration that is like this. And it's funny because this area of London that I'm circling here is an area that I've looked at on shows and in Project Kids groups recently. Mm-hmm. The sky tells me that we're on top of a particle accelerator. Okay. This is the violet crown.
Mm-hmm. But all throughout this thread, she's constantly like pointing out all of the Disney tricks.
Yeah.
Of all of the tricks, like there'll be something to look at, there'll be an entertainer next to you. Like one of them, she just said, "Oh, we're teasing us with a a calf that's half open." This is what they do. They mess with your perception of time. And it's all there. It's all in this thread.
And look at this one. I don't want to tempt fate, but I think we're moving. And we also have a whole new section of themes to look at, which is very exciting. Right? So we have a new scenery. We're in a new section of the park. Yep. Oh, boy. Oh, look at this in the background. This design, this symbol right here in the background. Her mom finally found them some tea, right?
Yeah.
And look at this photo in the background. This design food craft art with the different colored lines snaking that look like particle accelerators.
Oh yeah. And snakes again.
Yep. Snaking. She's talking about grammatical errors and typos with the phone. She just passed the National Theatre. She's like on a full sightseeing trip of London as the sort of distraction and entertainment.
Classic Disney Q.
Yep. This even looks like the main street at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Disneyland?
I haven't. No.
Okay, I just want to see what's the name of the main street at Disneyland, honey? Disneyland Main Street. I'm going to show you. You're going to be like, what the fuck?
Mickey Mouse Street,
like Main Street. Yeah, like it looks almost the same. Look at these, right? There's the castle at the end, and here on hers, there's the castle at the end.
Yep. Classic.
So I think, look at the people with their like sheets tied on them.
When I was in the refugee movie set in Poland,
yeah.
Regardless of whether the people coming out of the train station wanted or not, the Red Cross would throw over a blanket over them to make them look like, cold refugees, and give them a tinfoil sandwich,
Yeah.
And then here it is. And she says something quite funny. She says something quite funny on that picture.
Yeah.
Just above it.
I realize I've not mentioned the blankets. At the beginning of the queue, about 1,000 years ago, we were all given light blue blankets to keep us warm. When worn en masse, they give off almost a post-apocalyptic vibe, as if there's been a mass escape from a hospital. I think she sums it up right there.
Exactly. Because you'd have to be mentally ill to do this.
You'd have to be mentally ill to do this. And then down here, she says it literally. Think I'm entering a fugue-like state. Time has lost all meaning. What even is an hour anyway? So now she's getting to the meat of the potatoes here.
Yeah.
Right? When was the only other time? There's only one time in pop culture history we've ever heard of a fugue-like state. Do you know when it was?
No.
The television show Breaking Bad.
Oh.
When Walter White, right, disappeared for a couple of days, the first time he really went on like a meth-making binge.
Yeah.
Disappeared for a long time. And Walter White, of course, is famous for making the blue meth, and the blue meth is the same color as those blankets. Let me show you. Breaking Bad blue meth. Look at that.
Yep.
That's the blue meth on Breaking Bad.
Oh wow, exact same color. Yeah. Look.
Yeah, color.
Yeah, I have watched Breaking Bad, by the way. It was a good show.
It was a great show. But I'd never heard of a fugue state before Breaking Bad.
What? Enlighten me here. What does the word actually mean? Like, what's the actual dictionary?
So the fugue state, there's the Bach thing in Toccata and Fugue, I think is the name of one of his symphonies. But I think fugue, I'm going to give you the exact definition, so I'm not talking out my ass, but it's a dissociative state. So it's MK Ultra. What is dissociative fugue? Dissociative fugue is a temporary state where a person has memory loss, amnesia, and ends up in an unexpected place. Wow. People with this can't remember who they are or details about their past. Other names include a fugue or a fugue state. So it's an MK Ultra kind of state, but an amnesia. And think about the people that are there. Like no person in their right mind would be doing that. So how many of those people don't actually know why they're there?
Exactly. I mean, I don't mean to blow my own trumpet here, but
blow away.
But look, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Didn't I? I think I nailed it with the Q theory. And we've now got a literal one happen. Well, it's obviously happened, but I just can't get over it, Emily.
Yeah. Look at this. Interesting. Putting this out there for anyone needing to know. Yes, but don't take any makeup because absolutely no liquid will be allowed. And women were having to empty their handbags of all perfume and makeup and binning them. They were fuming. So they're doing the same thing that they do at the airport, which is one of the only places, that people in the United States will tolerate waiting in ridiculous amounts of snaking lines, other than Disneyland, right? So we do that at the airport to go through the TSA. Wow. Okay. The final snake, so near yet so far. All respect to this lady who somebody in line for that shit.
8 hours, man.
Right. Look, this is her steps. Right. She's still tracking her steps. Okay. And then David Beckham is there. So you're right on with the entertainment.
Yeah. So if you go to show replies.
Yeah.
She's got a few more.
All right. All the people are trying to photograph David Beckham, so they're not even moving even when the line has loosened up.
Yeah, so see that David Beckham showing up and entertaining the crowd, that to me is the same as Jeffrey Epstein entertaining all the people in the QAnon thing and keeping them busy with the Jeffrey Epstein Rubik's Cube of nonsense, which is all chicken feed horseshit.
Right, yep. She's been in the queue for 12 hours. Well, not nearly as long as the other queue people have been waiting, but it's still a good amount of time. She's gotten to see more sights, though. They're just sitting on their computer. That sky that right there is the kind of sky that I've been talking about that just doesn't look real, that looks like Super Mario Brothers. Yeah. Right? Like my skies every day, all summer, like it's crazy. What is the queue? Klaxon, almost 12 hours. I'm still talking about David Beckham. Navy blue flat caps maybe making a comeback. All right. We're near but so far. She's been saying near but so far for like a long time.
It's the dark art of time manipulation, right?
Well, what she said about that time, she doesn't know what an hour is anymore and the loss of, if anyone... Okay, so one of my favorite things to do, and this goes to like maybe the sick and pessimistic side of me, but I get these notification emails from before it's news because like 10 or 15 years ago, right, I used to look at before it's news, like earlier on in my awakening kind of stuff, right? It's a kind of a tabloid for conspiracies and stuff, but there used to be some good stuff there. And at a certain point, it got ridiculous, right? But I still get them. I'm one of those people, like, I never unsubscribe from anything. I never delete any messages. Like, I just try to overwhelm the tracking with chaos, right?
Yeah.
So I'll get all these notifications about some new post about, the storm or the queue or what a queue drops. These email, like these notifications coming from the same accounts, like they've been for like however many years now. It's about to happen. It's going to be soon. Just a few more days, a few more hours. How long they've been doing this for, right? If I had a shot every time I heard that, right? A shot of whiskey every time. Like I'd be babbling drunk for the last 10 years, 8 years, whatever it is, right? The amount, like the way that they have practiced disassociating from time dilation, time manipulation, all this kind of stuff. These people, like, I mean, you know, if you pointed it out to them the first time they said, trust the plan, it's about to happen tomorrow, right? Like, I still know some people who said to me 5 years ago, any day now, and they're still saying any day now. Like, has any days passed for them, or are they still on that same day?
Yeah. The word imminent. If I took a shot every time I heard the word imminent over the last 4 years.
Yep. Look at the way the sun is coming through, the rays on these people.
Blessed beings of holy light, they are.
Got it. We have cleared the final snake. Well, that almost sounds like someone who's like just taken ivermectin for the joy, right? I've just cleared the final snake and we are on the home run. Holy.
Is that what people on ivermectin say?
Well, ivermectin is an anti-parasite.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. But surely they don't actually say that.
I mean, as somebody who's on, you know, the 5th hour of their ayahuasca trip and still seeing, you know, snakes flying through the forest, they're like, that's got to be the last one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of, but look at the joy on the face of this woman who's just made it all the way through. And look at her last thing, right? A tweet could never do it justice. But it was somber and powerful and glorious all at once. The magnificent room, the bowed guards, the flag draped over the coffin, the sense of peace. It was all, and without wanting to be too hyperbolic, it was really awe-inspiring. It's amazing. Like these people act like they just fucking won the Olympics or some shit.
It's for me as an English man, it's very suspicious how I'm very suspicious when they put on this kind of like very. I call it the fake British thing, which is mainly like for the American audience. Yeah. Because there's not really people. I in my whole life I don't really meet this kind of this stereotype ever. Right.
Look at this, and now they're doing the English thing and having a fancy cup of tea and a scone. Right. The jelly. The only place I'd be is about 6 feet to the mom's right over there at the bar after all of that, right? And now look at this. The flower trip. This is fucking sick, dude. I mean, it's hilarious. And here's another step count.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Hang on, stop there.
Okay.
That time at the bottom. In numerology, that would be 696.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on. I'm just pointing out these little things that I find very suspicious, right?
And look, she during part of this, she went to Green Park, and remember the story I told you earlier about greening the green screen nature and the Tom Green and whatever.
Yeah. If you go back up where you just had your cursor, 15 hours and 45 minutes. So that'd be 6 and 9.
Yep, 69.
The Queen died at 96, right?
Yeah.
These are just little things that I know. I'm into my numerology, and I just always like, Now stop right here, Emily.
Okay.
There's a fab little coda to the story, a man called Rob Mercer. Do you know who Robert Mercer is?
The name's Bob Mercer. Bob Mercer?
Robert Mercer was the biggest funder of the Trump campaign.
That's right.
The Q movement, and he's also, it's no secret, he's a part of British intelligence and psychological warfare. Yeah, and he was the whole one that made up the term lock her up, trust the plan, before he even recruited Trump. And it was Neil Sanders that highlighted this to us first. And I just think, what the fuck? Isn't that not a bit of a coincidence? And obviously that's not the same Robert Mercer, but the name is the same.
Doesn't matter, yeah. Yep.
And there's Trump over there in the corner again.
A fab little coda to this story, right? I don't know what a coda exactly. A man called Rob Mercer, who worked for the East Midlands Railway, got in touch to say how much he'd enjoyed the thread. Oh yeah, this is here for you, honey. This Rob Mercer here is exactly for.
If you go, can you just Wikipedia like Robert Mercer?
Yeah, let's look up Robert Mercer.
You'll know him when you
All right, see, there he is. American computer scientist, hedge fund, early in artificial intelligence.
What? Right? Mr.
Yeah.
Mr. AI.
Yep. Making America #1 super PAC, Donald Trump, Cambridge Analytica, all the stuff, all the things. Yep, all the things.
I've read this before. It does say somewhere he has been working with the British Psychological Warfare Department. I can't remember where it is.
He grew up in New Mexico, and I don't know if you ever saw the show that Danny Katz and Michael and I did about New Mexico when the Alec Baldwin thing happened, where there with the shooting not too far from Jeffrey Epstein's compound.
No, I missed that one. Where was that?
Yeah.
What was that? Kids or words?
It was a Project Kids. It was a Project Kids. I'll find it for you and send it to you.
Yeah.
Yep. And he was already doing this shit with Nigel Farage before he did it with Donald Trump.
Yep. Robert Mercer is just another City of London agent, sculpting the world for the British Empire again.
Yeah. So I want to see what the word Coda means too. Let me just see what that word Coda means. Let's see. Coda, the evolution of documents. That's not the actual definition of the meaning of the word. Here we go. The coda is the concluding musical section that is formally distinct from the main structure. Interesting. It's also the Commission on Dental Accreditation. There you go. Okay, there's one other thing I want to add to this. So the last, there's a movie that came out last year called Coda. It won Best Picture. It's a documentary. It looks like, what is this? The English remake of the 2014 French-Belgian film La Familia Bellière. Let's see what this says here. Stars Amelia Jones as the titular child of deaf adults and only hearing member of a deaf family who attempts to help her family's struggling fishing business while pursuing her own aspirations of being a singer.
Child of deaf adults. There's something there.
Coda is child of deaf adults. Yeah. Okay. So I want to point something else out. So the last thing I have seen in my in my news feeds, the very last thing I've seen, maybe I saw it today or yesterday, I can't remember, in relation to the Queen stuff, was an article about Meghan Markle requesting a private meeting with King Charles before she leaves London. Okay, that was the last thing I saw that spoke of this. I have brought this up before, and I'll bring it up again here. Meghan Markle was the FBI agent in Fringe who responded when Olivia was in the car accident that ejected her into the other universe.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So Meghan Markle, and there's all this tension supposedly, between Meghan Markle and the rest of the family. Kate hates her, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
Like we're constantly hearing about that. Here is Meghan Markle in the TV show Fringe playing the FBI agent, right? Hold on a second. Let me stop my share and do this again. Let's go. There we go. Okay. This is her before she had her nose job. Her nose was a little different here, right? But she's the one, and she eventually dies when one of the shapeshifters from the other universe kills her and then inhabits her body. Right? Did you watch Fringe?
No, but I'm loving what I'm hearing though.
Right. So Fringe, at one point in the first and second season, there were these shapeshifters that came over from the other universe that would be given birth to in this very strange semi-technological, semi-biological way, right? And they could basically jump people's bodies, right? So one of these shapeshifters jumped her body and then threw her in the oven, as I think of recall correctly. Definitely had her body jumped, right? And it was, she was working the case of the Olivia car accident, right? And Olivia ended up, so when Olivia first meets William Bell, who of course is Leonard Nimoy, right? Let's see. This is it, right? Here we go. I'm gonna pull this up, this video clip. Let me stop the share so I can get the sound correct so people can hear. Share sound. Here we go. So this is
If you're going back to school, before you submit your essays, run it through Grammarly to quickly check for spelling, punctuation.
So she's been in a car accident, but somehow doesn't realize she's been in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she's in a building.
Dunham, welcome. Right this way. Go right in.
I've been waiting quite a long time for this.
Where am I? Who are you?
The answer to your first question is, it's very complicated. The answer to your second, I'm William Bell.
Notice that building,
Yeah.
and then notice what she's gonna see. Where is she?
New York. Twin Towers.
She's in a universe where they're still there. Okay, so she gets in a car accident, and her body, and Meghan Markle responds to the car accident, and somehow she has been ejected into this other reality to meet William Bell, and the new reality, the towers are still there. The show was shot in 2009, right?
Yeah.
But this is getting into some of the stuff I'm going to start getting into about buildings and sound and whatever. But that's the only way I knew Meghan Markle before all of the stuff with the royal family, right? She was the agent who was at the scene when travel into another universe occurred, and she ended up having her body jumped by a shapeshifter from the other universe and being thrown in an oven. If I'm recalling correctly, that she was the one thrown in the oven. This jumping bodies was happening so much, and I haven't watched for a long time. So she is requesting a private meeting with King Charles before they leave London. Right? So I don't know what's going on here. And I know that there was all this stuff about, they could be at this part of the memorial, but not that part of the memorial. Kate hates her. She slammed the door on her when they were getting out of the limo, this, that, the other thing, blah, blah, blah. Right? All of this kind of stuff. But what I just watched in terms of all of that cueing the identification of a fugue state, right? The Fugue's dissociative state would be what Olivia was in at the point that Meghan Markle entered the show, the series, right?
Yeah.
So I always like to remind people of that Meghan Markle thing. So that was the last story I saw. I just want to see if I can pull that story up and see if there's any little doodles to attach to. Go ahead with whatever else you have right now.
That was it, really. I mean, we're going to enter a new. It's going to be interesting with old Charles, isn't it? Because he's a climate carbon bounty hunter that's going to probably, take it to the next level. Because the Queen, to her credit, never really got into that shit. She mainly, whenever she did speak, it was mainly about cutesy granny stuff about Britain. But yeah, old Charles, he's big on the climate change. So it's going to be interesting, the new world we're going to have with, him as the king of England.
Well, I'm starting to recognize. So the thing that I'm working up with this deal with like the buildings and all of this kind of stuff, environment and atmosphere are going to play a big part in it, and the monitoring of exact percentages of what is in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be getting further down into the brass tacks of what the climate change and the green agenda is really about, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there's the whole Great Reset, New World Order, you'll own nothing and be happy. And there's all that kind of stuff, right? But if they none of the stuff makes sense, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, if you want to have a green landscape, you can't also get rid of people and cows and things like that, because nothing's going to be green anymore unless you're going for Scott's Turf, the fake granary that Michael and I talked about, right? Which is certainly a possibility. But what I think is that, there's lots of different elements, or I guess we just call them elements, or chemicals, or whatever kinds of things going to be in the land and the environment and the atmosphere. I don't think that there are only carbon-based life forms. I think there are life forms that are based on all kinds of things: mercury-based life forms, aluminum-based life forms, And that's part of why our food and our products have been inundated with that kind of stuff. I think there's going to be things coming into and out of our atmosphere that are going to not only be like more hospitable or hostile to certain beings being able to live in them, but also are going to completely determine which genetics and which sounds get activated, and those are going to determine which realities people have access to. And that's all I'll say about that right now, because I'm still working on it, and I don't have my sort of full theory of everything with this worked up yet. Mm-hmm. But I think that what we're going to quickly get to is constantly monitoring the atmosphere to measure what chemicals and what elements are present and in what amounts, and then the restrictions as to what we can do for that day, that week, that month, that year will be based on that makeup.
Yeah, and with the escalation with Russia, they could easily try and say that a nuke's gone off wherever, and due to the wind direction, we've got to have a lockdown because the wind's blowing westerly, so there's going to be radiation in the air, so everyone locked down. It's going to be another great invisible enemy tactic. So yeah, man. Yeah, I mean,
any way the wind blows doesn't really matter, right? They've been telling us in songs, Freddie Mercury, any way the wind blows, right? Okay, so here's the article. The article posted yesterday, and most of the videos and news about it are from today. Meghan Markle requests one-on-one meeting with King Charles. Meghan Markle requests a one-on-one meeting with her father-in-law, King Charles III, before she and Prince Harry return to California following Queen Elizabeth's funeral. The Duchess of Sussex, who has been estranged from the royal family, sent a letter asking for a private conversation with the new king. Sean described a potential meeting between Markle and the king as an opportunity to clear the air any way the wind blows, pull the rights from the wrongs, and explain some of the rationale behind what they've been doing over the last 2 years. There's certainly a lot to talk about. In 2 years since she and Prince Harry decamped to the U.S., Markle has gone on record to accuse her in-laws of racism and of failing to adequately address her mental health struggles. Right? And she sounds like a pain in the ass. You have to admire Meghan's self-belief, whatever you think. Even so, he admitted it's unclear if the rumored request would be honored. But it is, I mean, you know, it would be interesting if that does happen to be a fly. Like, let's pretend we live in a world where things are anything close to resembling what they say they are, right? It would be interesting to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. A, to hear what was really talked about, but B, what's she up to, right?
Yeah.
She's the agent that facilitates, she's sort of the responding agent into the interdimensional activity, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fascinating idea, keeping that in mind. But no, I mean, I think that I get what you're saying. She literally just did with the Queen's Q what you did in Ukraine, right? She literally hit on everything that we talked about in that last conversation. Yeah. And I don't think has any idea the number of realities she's opened up with that thread. Or does she?
Or does she? This is, you know, that Robert Mercer thing at the end just was like, whoa.
Right. Well, it's all the little confirmations, the Fugue state, the Robert Mercer thing at the end, right? The whole, there was little nuggets, the David Beckham thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like all the little nuggets that happened point to all kinds of other things. You know who also sits center court when Roger Federer plays? David Beckham.
David Beckham. He was also, like, if I remember correctly, in that King Arthur film, the Guy Ritchie King Arthur film, he was like the guardian of the of Excalibur.
Yeah.
Which, you know, whoever picks up Excalibur is the true King of England.
I want to show you some pictures real fast.
By the way, Emily, we've gone over an hour. Whenever you've got to go, just go. I've got no.
I can go for about 5 more minutes. So let's just take a look at some of these pictures that we've talked about. So let's see if we can find. So here's a picture of Andy Murray and Roger Federer. That looks like. But let's find a picture of David Beckham and let me see if I can get a picture. He's always there in the box watching, right? Roger Federer beating Rafael Nadal. But I want to see if there's any pictures of them together. There's any pictures of Roger Federer and David Beckham together or not, or he's always just in the box. Looks like I don't see any, but they're always in the box. Always in the box. And then I want to show you the picture of Serena Williams curtsies for the Queen. I mean, it's hard to picture Serena Williams curtsying for anyone, right?
I don't know. I always thought she was very, you know, on board with all the right salutes and. I mean, you think of something dainty, right? Serena Williams is anything but dainty. There you go. Oh yeah.
And Novak Djokovic watching. Look at his face.
Yeah.
Look at the face of Novak Djokovic as Serena Williams curtsies for the Queen.
What can you? I don't. Can you zoom in on the Queen's brooch?
Yeah,
that's always quite interesting. It's always like a hydra or an octopus, or usually something like that.
It's a little blurry, but
okay, I can't really tell what it is, but
yeah, but so there's. I mean, I'm trying to think of, you know, the other thing that happened in the United States with the queuing was. Oh, I know. I was going to bring this up. I have notes that I wrote down earlier in our chat. Remember when during the lockdown, there was also the supply chain problem where all of the cargo ships were stuck in Long Beach off of the coast in a queue? Yep. Remember that?
Yep.
And products weren't getting to people on time and we were in the lockdown and all that kind of stuff. So we had those. In America, no one ever waits in line for really anything except for like Apple, new Apple products, Disneyland, and voting or something maybe.
Black Friday, where they all kick the shit out of each other on TV or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So, but what they did with all these stores when the lockdown first happened was everybody was having to stand 6 feet apart. And so the lines were going really, really, really far, right? Because they were only letting a few people in the store at a time. And so there was that queuing. There was the queuing of the cargo ships at the port of Long Beach. And that kid I had on the show a couple of years ago, who, with the Q Celts and the P Celts and the Tartaria, Victor Buga and stuff, right? That, I just, he had a lot of interesting points, but he, everything was tied back to Trump's going to save America. And I can't, you know what I mean? But he did talk about that port of Long Beach and connections between the Crenshaw family, Dan Crenshaw, the American congressman with the pirate, with the eye patch and whatnot.
Yeah.
The connection between his family and businesses that they own, and like charity golf tournaments and child trafficking and whatever, but that was all related to the supply chain thing at that time. There was all kinds of weird shit, right? And that was the port that the Chinese wanted and whatnot. So there's a lot of threads that are plucked with this story, and it's quite a thread in and of itself. But did you reach out to her?
I didn't. No. I know that she done an interview on LBC, which I might go and take a listen to.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what she had to say, but it would be interesting to see if she's a real person, right? To reach out to her to chat and just, strike up a conversation and see what happens, right? Yeah. She's observed all the things about the world that you were, right? But she's just never looked into conspiracy. Right. But she just had this huge, this 15-hour crash course in behavior modification, right. And cognitive infiltration and all of this kind of stuff. Right. That it might be really, interesting to show her your thread. I'll show you yours if you show me mine, that kind of thing. Right.
You know what?
And then
I will reach out to her. I'll reach out to her, but I've got little hope she's gonna go near me. And my general rule of thumb is I don't kind of interview NPC. I'm not saying she is or isn't an NPC. I just don't interview them because I just don't see a point. Because when I was in Ukraine, a lot of people were saying to me, "Why don't you go and talk to someone on the street?" It's like, what? Right. I know exactly what they're gonna say. I know their perception, and I'm not going to do that whole man on the street thing where I make them look stupid and ask them, because that's kind of cruel. I'm not a big fan of making people look stupid or tripping them up. There's no need for that. I'm just going to show you my perception.
It's almost like if we could come up with the one perfect question that would sort of determine who and what she was, and whatever her answer was to it, right? Yeah. Because I suppose there people that just don't know until they know, and they might still be real people, right? But she demonstrated everything you talked about. So either she's completely the mind-controlled idiot that Tavistock is looking to create with all of this shit, right? Mm-hmm. Or she's the first real person to observe the insanity of all of this. The first real person that is not awake, right? The first sort of person who see, or maybe NPCs. My belief about the world is that anybody has the right to wake up or to evolve at any time, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe we're witnessing publicly this sort of, but it would be funny if she kind of didn't even know it, that she pointed out all the things that an NPC is generally not capable of pointing out, but she somehow still didn't put two and two together to sort of come out the proper answer. I don't know. Let's see what happens when we put this out. Because even though we're going to just put this out to sort of, our group of people at first, it seems to be that when we say things to the system right now, it answers back, right? Yeah. So let's take the temperature. Let's let the mercury rise on the thermometer. Take the temperature, and then maybe we just post this. Right, somewhere publicly, and see what happens. See how people respond. Right, yeah, see if it her, just to, kind of thing, and just see, because she literally demonstrated everything that you and I and Nish talked about when we were doing the show on Q Theory.
Yeah, and it's kind of I do put it down as my greatest work that people just are not really getting, apart from you guys. That's So yeah, let's see. I mean, I need to start doing more background work with it and accompanying videos and stuff. But it's one of them things, man. For me, I'm just a nightmare doing stuff on my own. That's why I asked you, Emily, and I do appreciate you giving me this time.
Yeah, no worries. And I'll say this, like this waiting for everything, like I'm very suspicious of it now, right? Because if people want something to happen, they have a way of making it happen very quickly. Like literally, like back to my water situation from Monday, like within minutes of me getting the text that the water delivery company wasn't delivering in it. My boss was on the phone making sure that 2 or 3 other companies were going to deliver us some. He put orders out there to make sure it was coming, right? So like, I don't just think if there was really white hats that were going to save the world and it didn't work out this time, they're not just going to be like, oh, well, we'll have to wait until a year from now or the next time the company can make the delivery. They'll be fucking looking for the workaround to save the world.
Yeah.
Right? It's not 5, 7, 10, 12, 14 years down the line. Right? Yeah. Like the system doesn't actually function that slowly.
Of course not. Of course not.
Yeah. So that's the whole, this waiting around, like, I'm just kind of like, I'm tired of waiting for stuff, right? Like there's no, it seems to me like the most perfectly designed psychological operation. In fact, it's one that's worked on us till when the moment we are old enough to know that we want something, our parents are saying, be patient, wait your turn. Good things come to those who wait. Be a good girl, Santa will bring it in December, all that fucking shit.
Yeah. The whole concept,
like the biggest operation ever.
The whole concept of a calendar is to make you wait for something. And I know we're going to talk about this on our next, just the 3 of us, about time travel. But one of the key ways to time travel is not to look at clocks ever. Have no concept of time. But when you think about all of the nonsense in life, waiting to pay off your mortgage, waiting for a promotion, all the stuff that the NPCs do is just another form of standing in a line. And when you look at life in general and what the silliness, it's all kind of making people just wait in a line, not going anywhere, waiting for the next snake movement when they make a little twist and they think they're moving on, but they're fucking going nowhere. And you have to get out of the queue world order, and start doing your own shit, because you'll just be in that queue forever waiting. And it goes to everything, even like paying off your car that you got on finance, waiting to talk to that girl she's in a relationship, you're waiting to be single. All of that horse shit, it's all in some way or another, metaphorically or in her case physically, standing in a queue. And you've got to get out of that fucking queue, man. You've got to get out of it.
Yep, we got to get out of the queue. All right, speaking of getting out of the queue, I've got to get out of this queue and into the next one. Always a pleasure, my friend Les. And we'll be back shortly with we're recording next week again with Nish. So yeah, all right. Anything else to the people before we go?
No, just thanks for listening. Thanks, Emily. I'll catch everyone soon.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.
All right, cool.